What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. My name is Mike Tagliere, here to host another sit-start episode with you guys on Sunday morning. Go through the lineups, go through your start-sit questions, go through trade questions, anything that you guys might have for me. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. It's week 2, and there's a lot more injuries than there normally is, unfortunately, this week. So I'm going to try to hit on these really quick and then move into your questions, because obviously that's the most important thing of the show. But before I do, guys, make sure you guys do me a favor. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel below. It takes 2 seconds. Obviously, it helps our YouTube channel grow. It allows our bosses to know that basically you guys want us to keep doing this, and as long as we keep growing the channel, they're going to allow me to keep doing more and more things like this. So also click the like button. Definitely appreciate it. Last week we had a big audience in here, so I'm hoping that we have the same turnout this week. But thank you guys again for showing up. Let's just start out with the injuries real quick. Joe Mixon is questionable for this game. He's going to test out his ankle injury in pregame warmups, so we're probably going to get that news as this show is going on. I'll break that down for you guys as we find out about it. But as of right now, even if he does play, I would expect it to be somewhat of a timeshare between him and Giovanni Bernard. I have them both in RB3 range right now. I'm almost hoping that Mixon's held out so that we could play Giovanni Bernard as like an RB2 this week. But as of right now, it seems like Mixon wants to play. We don't really know too much, so stay tuned with that one. Le'Veon Bell, he had an MRI done in his shoulder this week. It came back that there's no structural damage, but he is listed as questionable for Monday night. So if you do have Le'Veon Bell and you're relying on him, you definitely want to pick up Ty Montgomery in case he can't go, because again, that's a Monday night game. Nick Chubb's on the other side of the field. He's definitely owned in every league, and there's no other running back. So definitely need to make sure you have Ty Montgomery on your roster if you own Le'Veon Bell. Mike Williams, he's highly questionable for this game. He's someone that they actually promoted someone from the practice squad last night, which kind of tells me they don't expect Mike Williams to play in this game. He's got a knee injury. Never a good thing, right? And he's battling Darius Slay. Even if he does play, he's going to match up with Darius Slay this week. So again, that's not a great matchup for him. So Mike Williams, prepare to be without him today. Again, that's another player that we should hear news on relatively soon. Trey Burton, he's someone that is expected to give it a go this week in Denver. He says that he's not 100%, but that he can't take sitting on the sidelines anymore. Regardless, you can't really trust him. You can't play him this week. I know tight end can be kind of like a miserable place to look, but you want to see, especially at tight end, you want to see somebody stay on the field and be on the field for all those snaps. We saw Anthony Miller last week as someone who missed practice time, play 15 of 71 snaps. That's obviously not ideal. So let's go ahead and just pass on Trey Burton this week and hope he's healthy. And then moving down to the players that are actually going to be out for this game, we have Tevin Coleman not playing this game. That means Matt Breida and Raheem Mostert for the 49ers are going to get most of the touches there. I don't know if Jeff Wilson's going to get some of those touches or not, but I would expect Matt Breida to walk into 15 touches, and then we could say Mostert is probably going to be around that 8 to 12 range. So the only one I want to play in that backfield right now is Matt Breida. Moving on. The next list, we have Sterling Shepard. If you guys haven't heard, because a lot of people, during the week, they kind of check out away from football. They come back during the weekend. You may have missed that Sterling Shepard is out this week. He showed up to the facilities, I think it was on Monday, and he had concussion-like symptoms. They put him in the protocol, and he is going to be out for this game. Another guy dealing with concussion issues is Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed, concussion. This is the second week he's out. Unfortunately, Jordan Reed's career might be cut short due to concussion problems. So it's not great. Get him out of your lineups. You can drop him in fantasy football. Unfortunately, it's kind of sad. Darius Geis, another guy, sad. The Redskins are dealing with a lot right now. Darius Geis has a knee injury, and it's on the other one. He actually had to go get his MRI. He had surgically repaired this week. They expect him to be out probably 6 to 8 weeks, they're saying, which means he's also droppable in fantasy football. He wasn't on a great team to begin with, was never a great fantasy asset. It obviously makes Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson more fantasy viable. Chris Thompson, I actually think, might be the better fantasy option. All right, moving down, Sam Darnold. If you guys missed that one, he has mono. They ruled him out early this week. It's very possible that Sam Darnold misses multiple weeks. Of course, you weren't going to stream him in this matchup. You were probably, if you were in a 2-quarterback league, you felt like he was safe. But yeah, he's out. We don't know how long that's going to be. I dealt with mono myself, and it's just really an up and down thing. One day you could feel good, then like literally a couple hours later, you feel like crap and you have no energy. So Darnold could miss a few weeks here. We don't really know. Tyreek Hill, another guy, he's expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks for the Chiefs. They have not put him on the short-term IR, but they're saying it's a minimum of 4-week injury, so be prepared to be without him for 4 weeks. And then Antonio Brown. right at the bottom of this thing, you can see that Antonio Brown is going to be, it seems like he's going to be active for the Patriots today. He traveled with the team. He's at the facility right now. I don't know how much he's going to play because I know there's probably going to be a lot of Antonio Brown questions in the chat today. But the reason I want you guys to play this very cautiously is because Josh Gordon, when he was traded to the Patriots last year, his first 2 games, he played 18 snaps. Obviously not a high total. I've had people reach out to me and tell me that was due to his hamstring and that he had a lingering hamstring injury. Guys, if a guy like Josh Gordon, who's been with the team for 1 week, has a hamstring injury, he wouldn't have been on the field. Some people said that there was just a lot of bad stuff going on in Cleveland, that he wanted out, and I don't believe it was the hamstring. I think it was the Patriots easing him into the offense. They are not going to need Antonio Brown a whole lot today. Now, Antonio Brown's phenomenal football player. Like, he can make it work with anybody. He's a great route runner. He's going to create separation, especially against this Dolphins team. We saw Marquise Brown, a guy that barely played in the preseason, walk out, play 14 snaps, finish with over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So obviously Antonio Brown has some upside to him, but don't put him into your lineup thinking that he's a sure thing, because I don't necessarily think that the Patriots are going to use him a whole lot. But I'm considering him right now. It's like a low-end wide receiver 3, high-end wide receiver 4. He comes with upside, but he also comes with like a 2-point floor. So understand that, if you want to play Antonio Brown. All right, guys. We are going to get into the questions now. This is where I'm basically going to take questions. I'm going to pick a random starting spot, and I'm going to start going down the list. I'm going to scroll, and then it's going to slip. So I can't guarantee that they're going to go in exact order. I'm just going to grab them as I see them. No favoritism here, just legitimately going to be answering questions for the next 54 minutes, as many as I possibly can for you guys. So let me start with this. Tej asks, pick 2, Mixon, Michel, Ross, Fitzgerald. If Mixon plays, I think I go with him. Sony Michel is a lock for me. Sony Michel should be in lineups this week. Unless you have like 2 top 10 running backs, I think Sony Michel is probably a must start for me. Sony Michel against that Miami Dolphins defense. We know that Michel didn't have a great week last week against Pittsburgh. It is what it is, Pittsburgh's a really good run defense. They've had a good run defense, and I know that Rex Burkhead looked better than he did, and that's fine. Rex Burkhead could have production in this game too, but Sony Michel's the guy that they drafted to be their workhorse, and this is a game where we remember last year, when the Patriots went into Miami, everybody expected the Patriots to stomp in that game. They didn't, and they actually lost that game on that Miami miracle from Kenyon Drake. But this is a game where it's like they're going on the road. It's a division game. These games are always just like they mean more to coaches. And Bill Belichick just wants to go in there and get a win. The way to do that, you just pound the ball. They have probably the weakest front 7 in all of football, and it showed up last week. We saw Mark Ingram, 30-year-old Mark Ingram, run for 2 touchdowns against them on limited work. So I'm going to play Sony Michel almost regardless. So it basically comes down to Mixon, John Ross, or Larry Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald against Baltimore, tough matchup. They're going to be down Jimmy Smith this week. They were already down Tavon Young, but I think Brandon Carr is the type of cornerback that could, give Fitzgerald fits. I know that's weird, but John Ross, I do like him as a player. I want to see it another week before I start trusting him in fantasy lineups. But Joe Mixon, if he's playing, I would imagine that he's okay. But again, if Mixon is inactive, I'd probably go to Fitzgerald. I just think the floor is higher. Again, I just want to see it with John Ross before I start trusting him. Sterling Shepard worth picking up off waivers? Absolutely he is. That team is going to have a lot of negative game scripts where you're going to see a lot of pass attempts. And, Shepard, last week against Dallas, it was a tough matchup against them. Dallas against wide receivers has been really good. So it was encouraging to see Sterling Shepard play the slot on 70% of his snaps because that's where we want him to be. We just don't know what it's going to be when Golden Tate returns in week 5. Cooper Kupp, Julian Edelman for wide receiver, then James White or other for flex. All right, so I'm definitely going to play the 2 wide receivers here. James White is a guy that was going to be questionable for this game, not because he's injured, but because he had the birth of, I think it was his first child, was born on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, Friday or yesterday. But he is with the team. He is going to play this game, but I don't know how much he's going to be involved because, again, this is a game where they're not going to have to throw the ball a whole lot. You don't want to take a lot of risks when you don't have to. So Cooper Kupp, phenomenal matchup against the Saints and PJ Williams. That slot can be abused against them. We saw Kenny Stills, a guy that was with the team just 2 weeks last year, catch the game-winning, potentially, it was supposed to be a game-winning touchdown last week against PJ Williams. He's just not very good. Edelman against Miami. Again, if there's somewhere that they have some weakness on that team, it's in the middle of the field. Like Miami, their perimeter cornerbacks are not bad. I know they looked bad last week, but that's because there's no pass rush. That's because there's no the safety help over the top. Rashad Jones is out this game, one of their safeties, so Yeah, I would play the 2 wide receivers in that game and just remove the risk of James White. All right, let's see. Sheldon asks, streaming tight end this week, Eifert, Higbee, or Vernon Davis? Can I say like none of the above? Is that doable? I'm just looking at it right now because Eifert is in a timeshare with CJ Uzama, and we don't know if that's going to continue, if that was a 1 week thing. Higbee against the Saints, I don't like that matchup at all. The Saints have been really good against tight ends. And then you have Vernon Davis, who kind of pops up on the radar with Jordan Reed out for the game. But Dallas, man, I guess we'll go with Vernon Davis just because at least we know he's going to play all the tight ends shares. And it's funny because as I do these conversations with you guys, I start going through my own rankings and I look at him and I'm like, it makes sense. Vernon Davis, we know that he's the sole tight end there. He's the one that's going to run all the routes. We don't know the same thing about Tyler Eifert because it seems like Uzama is going to be involved. I don't expect the Bengals to throw the ball 51 times again either. So let's go with Vernon Davis. Devin Singletary versus John Brown. Whew. That's a tough one because so Singletary played double the snaps that Frank Gore did last week. And I know that he only had, I think, 4 carries, I think it was in the game. He caught 5 passes, which is good. They're not going to be throwing the ball a whole lot this game. I think Frank Gore is actually going to play more of a role than people think, whereas Devin Singletary is a little risky. But John Brown, again, you're talking about a guy that, is going to rely on Josh Allen to get him the football. I like John Brown a lot this week just because, that Giants secondary can be trashed. And we saw that last week with every single Cowboys receiver. The question is, do you need to do that or should you take the guaranteed workload? Me personally, I'm probably going to go with Devin Singletary just because the guaranteed touches are there. I think the upside is actually better with John Brown. But if you're looking for stability, I'd say Devin Singletary. Let's see, Joe Mixon or Devonta Freeman. This one is Freeman for me. Even if Joe Mixon plays, guys, I am worried about him. Coming off an ankle injury, a guy that didn't practice until Friday. He's going to test it in pregame workouts. That ankle can be re-injured in a second, and then you're going to be regretting, why did I play a guy that I knew was not 100%? You don't want to do that, especially when you have a guy like Devonta Freeman. I know it's a tough matchup against Philadelphia, but that game projects for a lot of points. I do think that one should be high scoring. Devonta Freeman is involved in the pass game, and coming off a game against the Vikings, we shouldn't have been that you shouldn't have expected too much. But the Eagles have a lot of problems in their secondary. They're going to have to worry about the receivers. I'm going to play Devonta Freeman there. He's been better at home in terms of where, he scores a lot of touchdowns when they play at home. All right, Dan. I'm debating between Gurley, Freeman, and Breida. I would go with Gurley there. This is a weird one, right? There's a lot of people that are going to be attacking this New Orleans Saints and Los Angeles Rams game. It's in LA, first off. So we know that Breeze, when he goes on the road, he's not as good. But the thing that people miss continually with this Rams defense is when Aqib Talib is on the field, they're just not a defense you want to attack. They've been really good against quarterbacks, really good against wide receivers. Many people are saying Michael Thomas is their number 1 receiver this week. I like Michael Thomas. He's better than Marcus Peters, yes, but Marcus Peters is much better when he's when he's playing sides. If you go back to his time with the Chiefs, he only played left cornerback. With Aqib Talib there, he only plays right cornerback. When Aqib Talib got hurt, they were asking Marcus Peters to shadow receivers, and he's just not good at it. He's not good. So he's better at sides. With Aqib Talib healthy, that team has allowed much, much fewer. The splits you could see in my article, the primer, you could see the splits with Talib and without him over the last year and, 1 game. And then going back to the playoffs last year, you could see Michael Thomas, 4 catches, I think, for 32 yards in that playoff game between the two. You have the Saints, who are coming off a Monday night exhilarating win. It was a big win for them, but it went down to the wire. Very emotional game. Coming off Monday night, traveling all the way to LA on it's essentially a short week. I don't think the Saints are going to be very good in this game. That's just my take on it. I think that the Rams are going to run the ball. I'm going to go with Todd Gurley here. He lost some carries to Malcolm Brown last week, but I don't think that the Saints run defense is crap just because Duke Johnson. I want to touch on this for a little bit just because I think it's important that people know. The Saints' run defense last year allowed 3.23 yards per carry, the second best in the NFL. So when people watched Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson, go for 140 yards and 19 carries last week, they're like, oh, the Saints' run defense, you attack them, right? Not necessarily. That was a different game. So Onyemata, he's one of their defensive tackles. He was out for that game. They were also missing Sheldon Rankins, another one of their defensive tackles. So they were missing both their interior defensive linemen. That's definitely going to affect the run game, guys. And then when you have the spread offense with all the options that the Texans do, it creates some things. So we had the same thing with the Rams. Onyemata is back for this game. He had a 1-game suspension, whereas Sheldon Rankins is still out. That's going to affect him a little bit. So I expect Gurley to get enough volume to be good. Freeman, again, you're probably looking for a touchdown out of him. Breida, 15 touches, but it's the 49ers backfield. I cannot trust a 49ers running back for the life of me. I mean, I was going through a cash game lineup earlier today. I was trying to finesse it, and Matt Breida was a guy that I was able to put in a flex if I wanted to, and I'm really hesitant about it just because Kyle Shanahan hasn't been one that you can trust when it comes to fantasy. So I'm going to go Todd Gurley there. All right, Universal Automatics, Cousins or Rodgers. I would play Cousins personally. Rodgers, in 5 of his last 6 games against the Vikings defense, he has thrown 1 or 0 touchdowns. He has, in 5 of those 6 games, he's also thrown fewer than 300 yards. So Aaron Rodgers hasn't been very good against them. Matt LaFleur's offense did not look very good at all. Rodgers didn't look good at all himself. But again, the Bears defense is going to make you look like that at times. Rodgers didn't play at all in the preseason. He was rusty. I get all that. But again, this is a good Vikings defense that's very healthy, and that's why I just don't think it's a matchup you need to attack with Rodgers. Whereas Cousins, it's not like it's a great matchup for him because the Green Bay defense did look better, but we also can't forget the fact that, Mitch Trubisky looked awful last week. We don't know what that secondary is going to do. We did see Allen Robinson get open quite often. Sometimes Trubisky just missed him altogether, didn't see him, didn't throw to him, and that was a problem, whereas Cousins should be able to find Diggs, should be able to find Thielen. I'm not as worried about him. I'll go Cousins there. Mixon, T.Y. Hilton, Miles Sanders, standard flex. In that one, I'm probably going to go T.Y. Hilton just to eliminate the risk. Mixon, again, we've talked about him. Miles Sanders, I like Miles Sanders. That's potentially a high-scoring game, but we don't want to make any assumptions about a timeshare based on one game. So I'm a little hesitant on that. I'm going to go T.Y. Hilton. All right, Sean, for flex PPR, Jarvis Landry or Aaron Jones? This is another one where I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry. I just think the floor is higher for you. That Jets secondary is just brutal. Brian Poole is the guy that's covering the slot. He's basically a cast off from Atlanta. Atlanta still needs a slot cornerback, but they let Poole go knowing he's just a guy. And that Jets defense, they're not going to get much pressure on Baker Mayfield. They have so many injuries. Quinnen Williams is out on the defensive line. That's never a good thing. I do expect the Browns to be able to run the football a lot. I think Nick Chubb is one of the best plays of the week. But Jarvis Landry's I just think he's safer than Aaron Jones this week against Minnesota. Minnesota is just really good. Aaron Jones is not trash, David. He's not trash at all, actually. I mean, if you wanted to go back to last year and look at all the running backs that played against the Bears, go and look at that and tell me that he's still trash. Hey, Tags, pick one full point PPR. James White or Chris Thompson, need high upside. If you're looking for upside, it's James White. It's no sure thing with him because, again, it's possible that he sees 5-6 touches in this game, and that's not great. But even if he does get that, it's possible that he scores 2 touchdowns on those just because the Dolphins are that bad. I think Chris Thompson's the higher floor play, but I'll go James White if you're looking for upside. Pick 2, full PPR going for upside. James Conner, Amari, Robert Woods. This is another one. If you're looking for upside, Conner and Amari are the picks. Robert Woods has, I wrote it in the primer this week. I think it's 15 out of the last 16 games. Robert Woods has totaled at least 70 yards. I think that was the stat. I could be quoting myself wrong, but I think that was the stat. But there was just 2 games where he had 100 yards. And he's not a 2 touchdown a game guy. So his upside has been a bit limited. He's been a solid floor play every single week. You could just lock him in as a wide receiver too. But Amari, we know the ceiling there. We really do. And against that Washington defense, they're not very good. And then James Conner, obviously a running back that might get 20 touches in a game. He would be the one that has the most upside. So I'd go Conner and Amari if you're looking for upside. All right, guys, it skipped over again. So again, I'm just going to start where it picks me up. Miles Sanders, Will Fuller, Marvin Jones, or Mecole Hardman standard. It's a lot of people. In a standard format, I think you probably have to go with Will Fuller. So if you guys didn't know, A.J. Boye is out for this game. He's one of the stud corners for Jacksonville. They're going to have Jalen Ramsey shadow DeAndre Hopkins. That's what always happens. DeAndre is going to get his, but at the same time, with A.J. Boye out, that side of the field should be attacked, and I think Will Fuller is the guy I'd go with, especially knowing it's a standard format where catches don't mean much, and Will Fuller, just a couple catches can mean the difference. So I'll go with Fuller on that one. Matt Breida or James White, RB2 PPR. I'll go with Breida on that one. Again, I don't like to trust San Francisco running backs, but I've talked about my concerns with James White this week, so I will go with Matt Breida. Latavius or Gio with Mixon plan. So that is exactly the area I have him to, and it's something I was adjusting right before we started the stream. Is that I was torn on where to put Giovanni Bernard with Mixon back, and it's like I don't want to totally say that he's not worthy of a start because I think that he's still going to get 12 touches maybe in that game. I don't think Joe Mixon's going to all of a sudden walk into a workhorse role. I think they're going to have a somewhat of a almost like a 50-50 timeshare even if Joe Mixon is active. I just think they'd want to slowly bring him back to the offense, make sure he's okay. And he could re-aggravate it, which gives Gio, a little nudge too. But Latavius Murray, that's a game where it's like, you have a high over-under. And again, people are expecting a lot of points. And if I'm wrong on that whole Saints offense thing, with the Rams, Latavius should have a really good shot at scoring a touchdown. I mean, you go back and you look at that Rams defense last week against Christian McCaffrey, and they couldn't stop anything near the goal line. I mean, even Alex Arma got in there for a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey could have ran for 3 touchdowns against them. So I'll probably go Latavius there if Mixon plays, but it's really close. James, yep, all right, let's see. Matthew S. Start 2 quarterback, Murray, Brissett, and Garoppolo. Oh, man. I'm going to say Kyler Murray's definitely one for me. I'm gonna go with Kyler Murray and Jacoby Brissett, and the reason I'm gonna do that, it's not because I think Brissett is like a much better start than Garoppolo. I actually would say Garoppolo should have a bigger game than Brissett, but knowing that Garoppolo is really struggling right now, knowing that there's no set wide receivers, like Kyle Shanahan, I'm having issues with him, and I understand he's saying that he wants Dante Pettis to be great. Like, put the best players on the field, get some like continuity with this offense, because it's like mix and match wide receivers all through last season. I know they had some injuries, but it's like, come on, get your best players on the field. But Garoppolo himself needs to make the throws. Like, Garoppolo hasn't looked good. Coming off that ACL, it seems like there's doctors that have talked about it, and the fact that he may be dealing with some mental instability, because it's one thing to get over an ACL, physically wise, because it requires so much time to get over that. But it's another thing to do it mentally. And some doctors say by his throwing motion pre and post ACL is that he's not completely trusting his knee yet. And that's a problem. So until I see Garoppolo, kind of have a good game and get some stability in that wide receiver core, I'm going to avoid him. So I'll say Murray and Brissett. All right, Keith, higher floor, not PPR, Stills or AB. I'm going to say Antonio Brown, because it seems like Kiki QT is going to play this game. So Stills and QT are going to mix. They're going to split snaps. They're not going to be 4 wide very often. So I'm going to go with AB here, just because if he's active, he's going to get a few balls thrown his way. But I don't think either of them come with a high floor. But so why not go with the guy with the higher upside, AB? All right, PPR start 1. James Washington, Christian Kirk, Marquise Brown, or Dede Westbrook. I would probably go with Dede Westbrook in that situation. Just seems like the floor is probably the highest of them. James Washington was 4th on the Steelers in snaps last week. Christian Kirk is a guy that he saw a lot of targets. I think it was 12 targets that he saw last week. But Baltimore is one of the better defenses in the league. They're going to pressure Kyler Murray. The question is Brandon Carr matched up with Larry Fitzgerald, and who's taking Christian Kirk in the other slot? That's the part where there is some uncertainty and there is some upside with Christian Kirk, but I don't want to trust him yet. Marquise Brown, can't trust him as far as I can throw him. He played 14 snaps last week. Guys, he is a guy that can kind of go off at any point. He can catch 2 balls for 70 yards and a touchdown. That's the player he's going to be, and that's fine. But again, you don't need to trust him when you have Dede Westbrook. So I'm going to play Dede Westbrook in that one, just because it comes with the most safety. All right, let's see. Stun a Goat. Mike Williams versus Josh Gordon. This one's relatively easy for me. I'm going to play Josh Gordon, because Mike Williams I don't think is going to play in this game. Again, I haven't seen the news come out just yet. I'll pay attention to that. If you guys see anything, obviously let me know. But it seems like Mike Williams is not going to play. The reason I say that is because he's been limited throughout practice, not participating in a whole lot. And then they upgraded a player from the practice squad last night, which usually indicates that they're not going to play someone. And it seems like it's Mike Williams. So Josh Gordon's healthy. Antonio Brown might not be a full-time player. Again, that Miami defense is just wretched. So I'll go Josh Gordon there. All right, Coz, half PPR flex. Dede Westbrook, Dante Pettis, Williams. This one's Westbrook. I've just talked about the other ones. Dante Pettis played 2 snaps last week. I don't think that he's someone that you should drop, but I do think that Pettis has to remain on benches until we see him play a full set of snaps. Drop Geronimo Allison for Mecole Hardman. I'm not I'm not against that. I have them in similar territory, but Mecole Hardman has an opportunity right now. So I guess if you're looking for production right now, yeah, you probably should, because you have Tyreek Hill out for 4 to 6 weeks. Geronimo Allison, he didn't, again, I don't want to overreact to 1 week. It's never a good thing when you see a player get 0 targets. Like Marquez Valdez-Scantling is clearly the number 2 in Green Bay, but I do think that Allison remains like a high upside wide receiver 3 on the Packers. Not a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, but I don't want to get rid of him. But for Mecole Hardman, I would do that because the upside is there for Hardman too, and he has an injury already on the roster. Rodgers or Allen? This is as crazy as this might sound. I'm playing Josh Allen. I have Aaron Rodgers down at QB, I think 18 or QB 19 this week. I don't like him in fantasy this week. And a good game for Rodgers against that Minnesota defense, I'm not kidding, would be 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's like middling QB2, high-end QB2 territory, and that's a good game. Looking at his last 6 meetings with that team haven't been very good, so I'm going to play Josh Allen, take the floor. All right, let's see. Francisco, half PPR. Do I flex Kenny Golladay or Michael Gallup? I started Chris Godwin. My matchup started Ronald Jones. Nice. I would take the safety of Kenny Golladay. Golladay is a guy that we at least know is going to get targets. Casey Hayward is a solid NFL cornerback, but he's not going to shadow Golladay. I think they're going to play sides. So Golladay is going to mix and match between the cornerbacks there. Gallup, he looked fantastic, but how much is Washington really going to need to, or how much is Dallas really going to need to throw in that game? I don't know. I like Gallup. I do, but not as much as Golladay. Add Malcolm Brown or Tevin Coleman, 10-team non-PPR. If you're just looking for a bench stash, it would be Coleman. If you're looking for someone that could potentially be a flex player for you right now, it's Malcolm Brown. Aaron Jones or Devin Singletary. I have Aaron Jones, but you can convince me that Devin Singletary is a better start. This is kind of a go with your gut situation. I say that because Aaron Jones is probably locked into more touches than Singletary, but they're not going to be as quality touches because of the defense he's playing. So it's really a toss-up between those. And I hate to say that. I know that sometimes people are like, me personally, I'd probably have Aaron Jones in there, but again, I could see why someone would want to play Singletary because again, he did play the most snaps in that team last week. It's just the touches. I think Gore should have more touches this week, basically is what I'm feeling. And Singletary is going to be mixed in. They should be good touches, but again, there's a lot of uncertainty there. Season-long half PPR. Is Evans and Ingram too much to offer for a wide receiver 1 like Adams, Julio, D-Hop? Yeah, you don't want to ever sell a wide receiver like Mike Evans at his low point. I wasn't drafting Mike Evans anywhere. There were a lot of guys that I liked more than him. And this is not like meant to brag, but I'm saying that I knew like Chris Godwin was going to be a thing. He was going to be a thorn in Mike Evans' side. But at the same time, Mike Evans is coming off 2 horrible games. Like his trade value is worth nothing. You definitely want to wait until he props it up a little bit. Maybe that's next week. Where just don't sell low on players like him. And that definitely is too much to offer. While I'd love to have Adams, Julio, or Hopkins, don't offer that in Ingram. Ingram is going to be like a guy that's getting like almost 10 targets a game, considering the lack of talent they have in the wide receiver room there. All right. Half PPR, Kirk, Cobb, or MVS. MVS has a really tough matchup. I don't like it very much. His speed is his best attribute, I think, right now. And he's going to be matched up with a corner that's got just as much speed as he does. So I don't really want to attack that. Randall Cobb looked good last week. He does have a good matchup. I'm not going to say that he doesn't, but again, it's 1 week. We can't really go off that. I'll go with Kirk just because he's a guy that had 12 targets. He's obviously a big part of that offense. And if anybody is going to see Brandon Carr in coverage, it's going to be Larry Fitzgerald. So Christian Kirk could do damage on the other side of the field in the slot. Start 2 in standard. Robert Woods, Josh Gordon, Miles Sanders, Giovanni Bernard. All right, so as of right now, I think I have to assume that Joe Mixon is going to play. I mean, from what I'm hearing from you guys, it seems like he's going to. I was told that he was going to test it out, but I haven't heard anything yet. That inactive list should drop soon. I'm gonna remove Bernard, I think, from that. So I'm gonna say that Robert Woods is a must start. He's a guy that you have to have in there. And then it comes down to Josh Gordon and Miles Sanders. Man, this is so tough. If you're looking for a floor, I'm going to say Miles Sanders. If you're looking for more of a ceiling, I guess I would go Josh Gordon. Again, this is a Miami defense that's going to be difficult for fantasy all year long, right? Like it's a matchup you want to attack, especially after we just saw, I think it was 23 of 26 passing out of Robert Griffin III and Lamar Jackson. It kind of just shows like how bad that team was. But how much do the Patriots need to pass the ball, right? Like, granted, Tom Brady might throw the ball 20 times and Josh Gordon could still end up with 100 yards and a touchdown. So like there's upside there with Gordon, but the question is like, there's so many different ways they can go. It's really tough. I think Miles Sanders gives you the better floor. Gordon with the better ceiling. All right, Dalton or Mariota? I would go with... I'm going to look at my rankings for this one because that one's really close. Mariota against Indianapolis. They're at home, but Indianapolis, they are missing Jabal Shard. Let's see. I have Andy Dalton 2 spots higher, so I guess I would go with Dalton against San Francisco. I don't feel like great about it, but I mean, if that's what you're looking at streaming, I think there's a lot of guys out there that could probably be better. I think Derek Carr is a better start. He's probably available in most leagues. Josh Allen is a better start. Matthew Stafford, I would play over those guys. So, I mean, there should be someone, this might be a 2-quarterback league, but I would personally play Dalton. I have Dalton playing over Trubisky in one of my 2-quarterback leagues. Let's see, morning tags, full PPR, Fitz, Sanders, McCoy, or Metcalf at flex. I would go with Sanders there just because, again, I think last week we saw him play 36 snaps. We don't see that very often in Doug Peterson offense. We didn't see Jay Ajayi hit that number. We didn't see him hit that number a whole lot. So to know that he did that in his first start, this is a matchup that we expected to go back and forth with the Falcons. So they're going to need a 3-down back in there. Darren Sproles is going to be, someone that's going to deliver some numbers through the air. But I think Miles Sanders is a guy that should deliver a solid floor in this matchup. McCoy has a ceiling that we could talk ourselves into, but Damian Williams is still there. Damian Williams is still catching passes out of the backfield a lot more than McCoy, and that's always concerning. So I'm going to take Miles Sanders as he leads that timeshare. All right, give me a second. I'm going to take a drink. Thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, the audience keeps growing, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Get notifications when we go live. I'm doing this every single Sunday for you guys. Make sure to share the word, too. We obviously want it to grow. I know you don't want to tell your league mates about it, but tell people at work, do something like that, and like the video. Just do me a favor and do that. Let's see. Full PPR, pick 1. Devonta Freeman, LaShawn McCoy, Duke Johnson, or Tariq Cohen. I have Devonta Freeman highest in my rankings right now. Because, again, I do anticipate that game to be high scoring. Devonta Freeman has scored a ton of touchdowns at home over the last couple of years. It's like 2 times as many touchdowns at home as he scores on the road. So that's a real thing. Coming off that Minnesota game where he should be fresh, he only played like half the snaps. LaShawn McCoy, talked about him. Duke Johnson I like, but here's the thing. Houston is against the Jacksonville team that is missing quite a few players on defense. They're missing their starting quarterback. I mean, the spread on that game, I think, went up to almost double digits, which is, like, obviously concerning. So, all those things, it seems like they're not going to need to throw the ball a whole lot. And, that's not a team that targets the running back position a whole lot, like in the years past. So I don't know if Duke Johnson's going to see a whole lot of touches in this game with Carlos Hyde running the way he did on Monday night. It seems like they wanted Hyde to be the primary early down guy, Mason Duke Johnson, and then have Duke Johnson be like a pass down guy. So there's some questions I have about him. And then Tariq Cohen, with Anthony Miller coming back, that's something that I think a lot of people miss. Tariq Cohen didn't have a single carry last week. He played almost all of his snaps in the slot. He was essentially playing the slot receiver role that Anthony Miller typically plays. Anthony Miller played 15 snaps, and it's because he was coming off an ankle injury. They said he just wasn't involved in the game plan for whatever reason, but he's healthy. He's off the injury report. There's no concerns about him, so that means Tariq Cohen is going to lose a lot of that role, and we've heard that the Bears want to give David Montgomery more touches, so where does Tariq Cohen fit in and all that? I mean, he's a big play guy. He's someone that's still going to get 5 to 8 touches per game, but he needs a big play to hit. So I'm going to go with Devonta Freeman. Marvin Jones or Mecole Hardman. That's kind of close. I'm going to go with Marvin Jones just because Hardman, we've yet to see that, right? We haven't seen him in a regular season game kind of dominate snaps. We haven't seen him do much in a regular season game. Again, the preseason game, the game he had against the Bengals, that was like a third-string Bengals defense, so I don't want to take too much away from that. Mecole Hardman has massive upside. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's the number 2 there. Looking at the snap counts last week, he's playing the number 2 behind Sammy Watkins, so he should get targeted. But Marvin Jones is a guy that we've seen produce in the league for quite some time, and with the Chargers are actually hurting a little bit at cornerback too. One of their starting cornerbacks, Trevor Williams, missed last week, and I believe he's missing again this week. So I'm going to play Marvin Jones just because he's a little bit safer, but Hardman does have massive upside. Would you take Terry McLaurin over Galladay? No. Stop. Don't be silly. PPR Fournette or Josh Jacobs? Thanks. Josh Jacobs this week. I'm 7 minutes behind the stream, so I don't know. I won't know if you answer. So JJ, yeah, I would play Josh Jacobs there. He's like one of my guys that you have to play this week. The matchup against Kansas City. Kansas City is just not a very good defense. Fournette last week averaged, it was ridiculous. I think it was over like almost 6 yards per carry, but the reason he just didn't get enough touches in that game. Oakland is at home. Kansas City is playing without Tyreek Hill, obviously. They're changing defensive schemes, and I think that shows in a lot of their performance, their secondary. Josh Jacobs is a guy that clearly is going to be a workhorse for that Raiders team. He had 20-some touches where there was just one touch for Jalen Richard. So I'm playing Josh Jacobs in a game script role, whereas Fournette is still fine in PPR. Like, he's a guy that's game script proof as well, but his team is just a bit worse right now. John Brown or Tyler Boyd standard? Tyler Boyd for sure. Tyler Boyd is someone that people are overlooking this week, particularly in DFS, is a guy that he's going to be massively targeted. Whereas John Brown, just play Tyler Boyd. All right. Skipped over again, so going to pick up. Joe Mixon is officially active. Thank you for that, Tommy. Thank you for notifying me there. So again, Mixon, now that he's active, we can say that he's like an RB3, an iffy one. Understand that if you have a sure thing on your roster that is healthy and going to play and get 15 touches, I would play them over Mixon. That includes someone like Matt Breida. Again, it sucks because I know you probably spent a second-round pick on Joe Mixon, but with the ankle injury, it could like literally pop up in the first quarter. Say he goes to make a hard cut, because in-game is different than practicing. You know where you're going when you're doing pregame warm-ups. You don't know where you're going on the field. You have to make those cuts. So he have him in middling RB3 territory, and I still think that Giovanni Bernard can potentially be a flex type start for you. But again, it really just comes down to your options. Tyrell Williams, Kerryon Johnson, or Singletary PPR. I'd play Kerryon. Just give me the floor of him. Like, I know that they didn't have a great week last week, but Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator in Arizona, it was a different scheme, and it seemed like they were able to slow down the run a bit. But Kerryon Johnson is a 3-down back. He should, he's someone that has like a 15-touch role in that offense, whereas Tyrell had a big week last week, has a good matchup again, but wide receivers are just so volatile, especially wide receivers like him. In Singletary, again, 4 carries last week. We can't rely on him just yet more than like an RB3, so I'm going to play Kerryon there. Kevin, John Ross, Larry Fitzgerald, or Robbie Anderson. I'm not touching Robbie Anderson. So 1, he's without Sam Darnold. Down to Trevor Siemian. That's definitely a downgrade. And 2, he's matching up against Denzel Ward, one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. So I don't want that. Larry Fitzgerald matching up with Brandon Carr. Not a great matchup for him. But again, that Rams defense, if there's a way that, Cliff Kingsbury can move those wide receivers around, I believe that Fitzgerald can get mismatched here. So I don't want to write him off. And then you think about John Ross versus San Francisco, and it's like, okay, you look at the cornerbacks there. Richard Sherman, he's older, right? And Richard Sherman's still a physical cornerback, but he can be beat deep. Like, if you guys didn't see it, like there was a last preseason, it was showing Marquise Goodwin basically running right by Richard Sherman. And it's because like those guys have like world-class speed. John Ross has that speed. Ahkello Witherspoon on the other side of the field, I think he's a 4.5 guy. Neither of them are very fast. So it's like, can I keep the safety over the top? I don't think any of these guys are sure options. I think John Ross comes with the most upside, whereas Fitzgerald might give you the highest floor, but I don't know how high that floor is. I don't think it's a great one. So it depends on what you're looking for, Kevin. I know that's like it's not like a direct answer, but if you're looking for upside, I think John Ross has the most. Pick 1 running back and 1 wide receiver: Cooper Kupp, Tyrell Williams, Adrian Peterson, Alexander Mattison. So Cooper Kupp, you're playing for sure. And then you're playing Adrian Peterson because Madison's a backup, right? And so Cooper Kupp and Adrian Peterson. PPR, Aaron Jones or Devonta Freeman. I would play Freeman. Again, both of them are in timeshares, it seems. But Devonta Freeman's, I think, was a little bit different. That game turned into a blowout in Minnesota last week, so I don't want to take too much away from that. In the matchup this week, not great against Philly, but Aaron Jones against Minnesota is even tougher. So I'm gonna take Devonta Freeman there. Jamison Crowder or Darren Waller PPR. I'd play Darren Waller this week just because Jamison Crowder, we don't know if Trevor Siemian's going to be a check down monster like Sam Darnold is, because Sam Darnold has favored his slot receiver, throughout his short career thus far. Obviously, we know the slot receiver has value in the Adam Gase offense, but I would play Darren Waller. I just think the matchup against Kansas City is just too good to pass up. Josh Gordon or Breida, half PPR. Thanks, Tags. All right, Magic Bell. I would play Breida here just because he's safer. Comes with similar upside, right? Because Matt Breida is a guy that we've seen when he's healthy and on the field, he can perform if given the ball. And the matchup is not a bad one. However, it might not be as good as people think. With the new defense installed there in Cincinnati, they were able to slow down the Seahawks running game last week. And I know Chris Carson scored 2 touchdowns, but they didn't do so well on a yards per carry standpoint. I think it was like 3.03 yards per carry, if I'm not mistaken. So it might not be as great a matchup. Again, it was one game. I don't want to overtake that, but knowing that the Patriots might not need to throw a whole lot, I'll say that Matt Breida is a safer option there. Kupp, Gallup, or Tyrell Williams, PPR. Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp is one of those guys this week you plug in, you play him. I mean, I don't really see a scenario where you have Kupp on your roster and you're not playing him. PJ Williams is the weakest, definitely the weakest link in the Saints secondary. He got burned last week. Was burned last year. Was one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL. It just doesn't make sense as to what the Saints are doing, like why he's even playing, but he is. Let's see, Chris Thompson, Tariq Cohen, Duke Johnson for full PPR. I feel like Chris Thompson could go off. Thompson can. I'd play Duke Johnson in that scenario. Those are all in the similar tier. Those are all the pass catching running backs that aren't locked into a whole lot of touches. But Duke Johnson is going to get more carries than those other guys. Whereas Chris Thompson's going to, he's the one that could see 10 targets, but Duke Johnson, he could see, 5-6 targets as well, but he's also going to get some carries in the ground. Like Duke Johnson should get, I would say 6 to 10 carries and another 3 to 4 receptions. I think that might like projection for him. Whereas Tariq Cohen, I can't say that about. And Thompson, again, a lesser offense, less scoring opportunities, going to bring down that ceiling for me. Kerryon Johnson or Calvin Ridley, non-PPR. I would play Kerryon. Just take the guaranteed touches there. Ridley's got a good matchup against Philly, but I'm going to go with Kerryon. What do we do with OJ Howard and why? And do we only play Winston shootouts? All right. So I know this is going to require a lot of faith in Bruce Arians and OJ Howard, but I don't drop OJ Howard. And in fact, I mean, if you can make a trade for him in your league and get him for next to nothing, like if you can trade right now and let's say that you trade away someone like TJ Hawkinson, I would trade Hawkinson for OJ Howard right now. And I know that some people might be like, what are you talking about? I'm not the type to overreact to 1 week. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm okay if I'm wrong on Hawkinson because rookie tight ends, it's just the historic numbers just don't show it. What he did in week 1, I moved him massively up my board. Like I do view him as a tight end 1 moving forward. However, that may have been his best game of the season. And I don't want to say that Kenny Galladay is not going to be much and Marvin Jones isn't going to be much and Kerryon Johnson isn't going to deliver. So I'm not jumping to conclusions after one game. You probably don't even have to give a Hawkinson to get OJ Howard right now. Some people are telling me they're dropping him, which is just crazy to me. The tight end position is very volatile. It's very up and down. Don't overreact. I mean, I am worried for sure. And I moved him down my board, but not that much. Let's not pretend that there's a whole lot of tight ends that we could feel great about. Has anybody received any word on Mike Williams? Mike Williams is the one that I was wondering about. We should have heard about the inactive or active if he's playing today, because I don't think he's going to, but I'm curious to see if any of you guys know about that. Love your work, Tags. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Bench 1, Woods, Kupp, Watkins, Allen. I mean, dude, that's I guess Woods. I mean, I'm playing Cooper Kupp. I'm playing Sammy Watkins as the number 1 receiver for Patrick Mahomes. And then Keenan Allen is a guy, if Mike Williams is out, he's locked into 10 targets. So I'm going to go Kupp, Watkins, and Allen. I mean, it sucks to bench Woods, but it is what it is. And by the way, if you have a situation like that, every single week you're going to have trouble picking who you want to put in your lineup. When you do that, do a 2-for-1 upgrade. So if you were to trade away someone let's say that you were to trade away Kupp and Woods and you were able to get DeAndre Hopkins or something like that, upgrade to a wide receiver 1 that you just put in your lineup every week. Let's see. Fournette or LaShawn McCoy, non-PPR. Will run game be abandoned for Jacksonville? It doesn't matter if it's abandoned or not because Fournette's still involved. He's a guy that's he's a 3-down back. They're going to use him in a passing down role too. I'm playing Fournette here. LaShawn McCoy, he's just an upside RB3 flex type play for me this week. I know he looked good last week, but he still wasn't very involved in the passing game. Damian Williams had that role, which is very valuable. Damian Williams is still the starter. So I'm going to say that Leonard Fournette is the one for me. McCoy is a guy that he probably has startability this week, but I don't think that I would get close to starting him over Fournette. All right. Jose asks, Matt Breida or Allen Robinson flex PPR league? I'm going to go with the floor, Matt Breida. And so Allen Robinson is a guy that people are. So I'm from Chicago, so obviously, I'm like I don't let my emotions get involved when it comes to fantasy football. But here's my take on Allen Robinson. People will tell you that, Mitch Trubisky had a bad game and that Allen Robinson had 107 yards. That tells you just the floor that Allen Robinson has. Not necessarily. Trubisky had a terrible game, but Trubisky also was a guy that latched onto Allen Robinson just because he wasn't having a good game. He didn't have it, so he started just locking onto him and throwing balls that he probably shouldn't have. Anthony Miller wasn't part of the game. He played 15 snaps. Trey Burton was out of the lineup. When these guys come back into the lineup, if we see David Montgomery getting more snaps like he should, more touches like he should, it's like, where all of a sudden are these touches going for Allen Robinson? Allen Robinson also, you're not going to see the Bears offense pass the ball 45 times like they did in week 1. So Allen Robinson is a solid wide receiver too, but I don't want to pretend that he's like a lock every single week. So I'm going to take the guaranteed touches with Breida there. Josh Gordon or Sony Michel, PPR. Michel. Sony is like a must play for me. Mohamed Sanu or DJ Chark. Ooh, I'm going to go with Mohamed Sanu. I just think it's a safer floor in that matchup against Philly. The Falcons can go a lot of different ways that you can attack that Eagles secondary, but Mohamed Sanu is like the safety valve over the middle of the field. And knowing that Matt Ryan just lost another offensive lineman, Chris Lindstrom, seemingly for the year, he's going to have to check down a little bit. Julio should kind of go off today, but I will say Mohamed Sanu is a safer bet. Standard, Alshon, Djax, Gallup. Alshon Jeffrey. Yeah, Alshon. That's where I go. Deshaun Jackson, dude, that guy, I'm just happy to see him back on the fantasy radar. Like, he's just so good at the game, and I think he's like an underrated talent and like of all time. I think he's one of the best football players I've ever watched. And then Michael Gallup he's outside that conversation as a guy that's only done it 1 week, and we don't want to overreact to that. But I'm going to play Alshon in that situation. I think he can beat Trufant and Isaiah Oliver. Calvin R. So that was Calvin. Let's see. Tyrell Williams, Tyler Boyd, John Brown, Ross, or Lockett. Pick 2. Jeez. All right. So Tyler Boyd is a lock in your lineup. You're playing him, and you're also playing Tyler Lockett. So Tyler Boyd and Tyler Lockett, we're going with the Tylers in your situation. I think, by the way, that if you guys are playing DFS or, just looking for like the guys that you would stack together, I think that the Steelers-Seahawks game has sneaky shootout potential. That Seahawks defense isn't very good. Tedrick Thompson, one of their starting safeties, is out this week. They brought back a cornerback that they recently cut because they were upset about the performances last week. Like, that Seattle defense is just not very good right now. And the Steelers need like a pick-me-up game on offense after what they showed against the Patriots. So I think it's like pedal to the floor, like on Seattle's throat. And Seattle can hang with you too. Like, they can throw with Russell Wilson. So I like that game as like a sneaky shootout. Full PPR league, need 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. All right. So, guys, try and narrow these down. So I'm sorry if I don't get to them because I want to get to as many as I can. But when you start doing like the need this, and like it's basically like I'm setting the entire lineup, and that's not the purpose. Is like you guys said it, and if you have a tough decision, do it. I want to help as many people as possible. So I'm going to keep going. Aaron Jones or John Ross for my flex. I would play Aaron Jones. Again, it's not a great matchup against Minnesota, but they are at home. He could punch in the goal line. He is going to be the goal line back for that team. He is the best one they have. So I'm going to go with him. Again, John Ross, I do like. He was one of my sleepers this year. Like, I liked John Ross. It's not because of last week. I like him as a player, but I'm not going to fully invest in him after 1 week. So, like, just give us some time. Thoughts on David Montgomery? One of the best buy lows in all of fantasy football. It's kind of ridiculous how good of a buy low he is right now. I know he had a slow start to the season. Green Bay's defense, it was a new defense. They like in terms of like the talent that they brought out there, and the Bears didn't really know what to expect. Tariq Cohen playing more of the slot role, that didn't really affect it. It was more Mike Davis that affected everything than it was Tariq Cohen, because Cohen didn't get any carries. We're going to see David Montgomery catch a few balls a week. He's not going to be totally like highlighted in the passing game or anything like that. It's more of the fact that he can catch the ball, which is something that Jordan Howard didn't offer. Mike Davis, he's a fine player, but again, they drafted David Montgomery for a reason. Matt Nagy came out in an interview this week that was kind of like under the radar, and he said that he understands that sometimes running backs need to get into a groove, and it's really tough to do that when you're coming on and off the field. So they want to start building, they want to start getting someone in that groove, and I think that they drafted David Montgomery to be that guy. So Montgomery is going to shoot up boards soon. Denver, not a great matchup, but at the same time, they're missing Todd Davis, one of their starting inside linebackers, which helps. So David Montgomery I have as like an RB3 this week, but he's one of the better buy lows in fantasy football. David Njoku or Vance, half PPR, half point per first down. This is Vance, hands down, like not even close for me. It's not even a great matchup for Vance because Bradley McDougald for the Seahawks has been really good in coverage. But knowing that they have some safety issues there in Seattle, like I don't know if they're going to be able to use. They may be changing things there. Whereas David Njoku is going to be matched up with Jamal Adams, and that's just like one of the worst matchups in football for a tight end. So I'm going to go with Vance McDonald in a potentially high scoring game. Let's see, Justin, standard flex David Montgomery or Malcolm Brown or DK Metcalf. I would go with Montgomery just because, Malcolm Brown is a guy that, I know he stole a couple goal line touches. It could flip flop this week. We could see Todd Gurley get those. And then it's like all of a sudden you have Malcolm Brown who leaves the game with 11 carries for, let's say, 50 yards, which isn't bad. It's really good yards per carry, but he's not involved in the passing game. If he doesn't score a touchdown, you're kind of let down. David Montgomery is a guy that has room to grow. So I'm going to go with Montgomery here. DK, his stock went down a little bit when we found out that Joe Hayden is going to be active for this game. So that's where I'm a little worried about. Let's see. Tom Brady or Jared Goff. I would go Brady, just because it's like the efficiency should be stupid off the charts. He may not throw a whole lot, but I would probably go Brady here. I know people are expecting a shootout in LA, and I understand the logic behind it. I really do. But I think there's some factors that make me kind of just fade that game a little bit. So I'm going to go Brady. Devonta Freeman or Deshaun Jackson. I'm guessing that is. Flex standard. I'm going to take the guaranteed touches from Devonta Freeman. I think Deshaun Jackson's probably still a good start. Again, it's in Atlanta, so they're on the track, and that's like Deshaun Jackson has shined when playing indoors before. And knowing Isaiah Oliver is an inexperienced quarterback, Desmond Trufant's a veteran. They're using Kazi, a converted safety at nickel cornerback right now, which means that like Deshaun Jackson can burn him. There's a lot of reasons to like Deshaun Jackson, but Devonta Freeman just has enough guaranteed touches that I can't pass on him for Deshaun, knowing that there's some volatility in Deshaun Jackson's performances. Let's see, Stephon Diggs or Allen Robinson. I would play Diggs personally. Antonio Brown or Cooks. That's Cooks hands down. Diggs and Robinson's closer for me, but I would say Diggs just because like the history, like against Green Bay, J.R. Alexander is going to be covering Diggs, and it's a man coverage scheme. Stephon Diggs beats man coverage like all day. Like Diggs is one of the better route runners in football, and if they trust him one-on-one, he could beat you. So I'm going to go there and kind of wait for Trubisky to kind of get into his groove a little bit, whereas Cooks 100% over Antonio Brown this week. Half PPR, Sony Michel or Latavius Murray. Sony Michel. Sony Michel should be in lineups this week, guys. He is my number 14 running back in half PPR formats. I think there's a realistic chance that he goes for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Latavius Murray is like more of like a touchdown or bust guy. Start 2 full PPR. Deshaun Jackson, Allen Robinson, Boyd. Whew, I'm going to go with Boyd and Allen Robinson there. Again, I'll take the guys that are more stable than the guy, Deshaun Jackson, who presents a lot of upside. Again, there's a lot contributing last week, right? Washington, not very good. They have a new safety duo. He scored both of his long touchdowns out of the slot, which is basically where you go to get some of that miscommunication on the safety front. And again, I don't want to bet on that big play every week, especially when you have guys like Allen Robinson and Tyler Boyd who should be getting 8 targets per game. Standard, Miles Sanders, Antonio Brown, flex. I'm going to go Miles Sanders. They both come with upside, right? Like we know that. But we also know that Miles Sanders is leading a timeshare going against Atlanta, a team that really struggles against fantasy running backs. So I'm going to go with Miles Sanders. Antonio Brown, for those of you who missed the beginning of the show, I mentioned the reason that I'm not like big on Antonio Brown this week and why he's like a high upside wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type because Josh Gordon, when he was traded to the Patriots last year, he only played 18 snaps in each of the first 2 games. And me personally, I don't think it was in relation to a hamstring issue that some people have told me. When you have a hamstring issue and you're on a team for a week, you don't play football. You're not going to be playing in the game if you actually have a hamstring issue. So I don't think it was more of that. I think it was just more, I think that he didn't know the playbook. They were developing some chemistry, and it is what it is. So Antonio Brown, again, even if he only plays 18 snaps, he could kind of go off, but I don't want to bank on that this week. All right, let's see. Thank you guys, by the way. Definitely appreciate you guys being here. We do this every single Sunday from 11 to 12 Eastern time. if you haven't already, click the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to answer a couple more questions before I get out of here and set my own lineups and kind of make tweaks to my rankings. I still haven't seen anything on Mike Williams, so hoping that we find out whether or not he's playing. Standard flex, Allen Robinson versus Latavius Murray. Thanks, Tags. I would go with Allen Robinson. Again, Latavius Murray is more of like a touchdown or bust guy. And the Rams, I know that they really struggled against Christian McCaffrey last week in that Carolina run game, but I don't want to like bank on that happening again. I just feel like it's a team that hasn't been terrible against the run. They haven't been great, but Latavius Murray needs a better game script essentially if you want him to be a really good option, whereas Allen Robinson doesn't. And I mean, judging from last week, the Broncos, they were without Bryce Callahan. I don't know if he's playing this week. It doesn't seem very good that he will play. And then you have Chris Harris, who has moved out to the perimeter from being a slot cornerback. And like last week, as we saw against the Raiders, it just didn't work very well. Vic Fangio wasn't getting pressure. It's really odd to see that Broncos defense struggle as much as they did in that opener. Let's see, Connor, PPR flex, Darren Waller or Josh Gordon. I'm going to go Josh Gordon. I mean, typically when in a flex, I rarely start a tight end in there, so I don't want to rely on a tight end if I don't have to. The reason that people like Waller is because he plays at a very unpredictable position. He looked really good last week, and he has a really good matchup. There are a lot of things changing with that Kansas City defense that can start to change a little bit, but I'm going to play Josh Gordon. Russell, PPR pick 2, T.Y. Hilton, Tyrell Williams, Lockett, and Cooks. I would play Tyler Lockett and Brandon Cooks. Those are the two in my rankings. They're both top 20 options for me. Again, Tyler Lockett in a potential shootout. That Pittsburgh secondary, they had some really bad miscommunication on the back end last weekend. Tyler Lockett's a guy that can expose that. And Brandon Cooks against the Rams, or against the Saints, his former team, he has just abused them. If you go back to last year, he was just a monster in both the games against them. They really can't play him in man coverage because they don't have a guy to hang with him. And in zone coverage, Brandon Cooks is one of the smarter wide receivers out there. So I'm going to take Brandon Cooks and Tyler Lockett. All right, boss of the boss, flex, half PPR, Tyrell Williams, Shady, or Latavius Murray. This is a case where you can probably go Tyrell Williams in a half PPR because McCoy's not going to catch many passes. Latavius Murray's not going to be too involved in the passing game. And Tyrell Williams, that's a game where they're going to have to throw the ball. Let's be real. Kansas City's going to put points up on the Oakland defense. That's going to happen. But Derek Carr has been a top 12 fantasy quarterback the last 2 times the Chiefs have come into Oakland. So that's why I like Derek Carr a little bit this week. I'm going to go with Tyrell Williams. DK, Marvin Jones, or Mike Williams. Do we know if Mike Williams is playing or not? I haven't seen that news pop up. Let me see if I don't know if I see anything. Let's see. Joe Hayden. I do not see anything. Mike Williams officially active, so he is playing. That's odd. I mean, I don't like Mike Williams very much this week because again, I think that he might be hurting more than you think. I'm going to go with Marvin Jones in that situation. I think Marvin Jones, the matchup again with Trevor Williams out for the Chargers, knowing Casey Hayward's going to just play on one side, and even if he did shadow anybody, it would be Kenny Galladay. So I'm going to go with Marvin Jones there. DK took a slight step back when Joe Hayden was active. Let's see. Yep, Joe Hayden is active. I just wanted to make sure on that one. All right. Josh Gordon or John Ross? Josh Gordon. I'm playing Josh Gordon this week. Half PPR. Is that Duke Johnson or Leonard Fournette? It's got to be because I mean, if it's David Johnson, that would be a better question. I'm going to go with Fournette. If it's Duke Johnson, I'm going with Fournette. If it's David Johnson, I'm probably going to go with David Johnson. Joe Mixon or David Montgomery? That's a good one. That's a really good one. And one that I struggle to answer. I'd probably go Mixon, I guess, just because it's like at least we know that he's like their number 1 running back. And if he's playing, we have to assume that he's going to get the start and he's going to get some touches. I have this like literally this thought in my head that Joe Mixon just goes out there and then he like aggravates that ankle injury in the first or second quarter and you're left with nothing. But at the same time, David Montgomery, a guy that, didn't see enough touches last week, was at 7-8 touches. Obviously not ideal and I don't want to say tougher matchup, but a tough matchup this week. So I guess I go with Mixon and just hope he's okay. All right. Adrian Peterson, LaShawn McCoy, or James White. I have James White the highest in my rankings because I don't think any of these players come with a solid floor. Like Peterson, that game script can go south really quick. And we saw games last year where he got 4 carries because the game script was so bad. LaShawn McCoy is a guy that's a backup to Damian Williams. Can Oakland put up points in the Kansas City team and force them to throw the ball? Yeah. I mean, I like McCoy as a flex option. I think McCoy might come with the safest floor here, which is really weird because he's a backup running back. But James White, again, he's someone that we didn't even know if he was going to play in this game because he had the birth of his first child, and he joined the team later. I don't think he flew out with the team. There was something with that, but it's possible that James White's just not very involved this week. So I'm gonna say probably LaShawn McCoy is the safest. White has the most upside if he's part of that game plan. Allen Robinson or Tyrell Williams PPR. That's really close. I'm gonna go with Allen Robinson just because like Tyrell. I don't want to, because so here's the reason that Tyrell Williams, I was not so high on him. Obviously Antonio Brown was there. He's gone. It's like, oh, okay, now Tyrell Williams is actually a thing, but I didn't view him as anything more than like a wide receiver 3, just because Derek Carr has been really up and down throughout his career. He's not a guy that you want to rely on week in, week out, and knowing and he drags his receivers down when he has those bad weeks. Like he'll turn into a check down monster. Whereas Mitch Trubisky, we saw him have a bad week last week, and Allen Robinson suddenly became like a target monster, and he had a better game because of it. I'm going to play Allen Robinson here. I would just prefer to see Derek Carr that he's grown into this role. It's very possible that Derek Carr took a step forward in his career, and he's going to become the quarterback that Oakland wanted him to be. It's possible, but we haven't seen it yet. And I don't want to say that one game sample size with Tyrell Williams, means that he will. Let's see. Frustrated Tyreek Hill owner here, projected to lose by 12 points at the moment. Picked up Hardman. Do I go for the 0 floor, huge upside, or take the slightly safer D.D. Westbrook? I mean, projected to lose by 12 points is nothing. I don't pay too much attention to projected ownership or projected matchups unless it's like 30, 40 points. That's obviously something big you need to overcome. I think I would probably still go with D.D. Westbrook. I mean, I understand the concern on your end, but do we see any scenario where the Texans don't just throw up points on the board against Jacksonville, knowing that they're without A.J. Boye this week, knowing they're missing a couple guys in the defensive line? I don't know. I mean, I understand where you're going with that. Hardman does have a higher upside. He does. He has a massive ceiling, but the floor is just, it might be too low. Mark Andrews is active, play away. Yeah, I would think so because Harbaugh actually said, I knew he was going to be active because Harbaugh said yesterday that both him and Marquise Brown were going to be fine, that they were going to be a go. So I do say play away. If you wanted to play Mark Andrews, you can. Mixon or Bernard, I'd play Mixon, but understand that there's risk. I only have Bernard a couple spots behind him in the rankings because I think it's closer to a 50-50 timeshare this week, but there's nothing guaranteed here, guys. And then the last question I will do is Aaron Jones or LaShawn McCoy. I'd play Aaron Jones. Again, he's the leader of a timeshare, whereas McCoy is on the back end of a timeshare. PPR, I mean, neither of them are highly involved in the passing game, but I would anticipate Aaron Jones getting more involved as the season goes on because the Packers need the more explosive back there. So that's where I would go. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Seriously, it means a lot. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We do a waiver wire show on Tuesday. I think it's usually at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then Bobby does a start sit show on Thursdays. And then I obviously do this on Sundays. We want to keep doing it, guys. Make sure to like it. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Best of luck in week 2. And if there's anything else you need, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Mike Tagliere NFL. I try to answer as many questions as I can. Until next time, lights out.